Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to solve a common cold weather fishing problem. Your float doesn't move, but when you lift your rod, there is a fish on the line. It has a frustrating situation, but with a few simple adjustments, you can catch more fish even when bites are light. Why the float doesn't move? As the water temperature drops, the bites you get are often very gentle. Small fish like crucian carp dominate the feed, and their bites are too light to move the float noticeably. Even if your setup worked perfectly before, the float may now seem inactive. There are three main reasons for this. Small, cold water fish. Cold temperatures slow down fish. Smaller species bite lightly, so the float barely reacts. Rig too stiff. If your supply is long or the weight touches the bottom, the fish must make big movements to move the float. In cold water, fish are less active, so the float stays still. Float misadjustment or water currents. A float that is incorrectly set, or currents that bend the supply, reduce sensitivity. Even when a fish bites, the float may not move. Solution E. Readjust your float. The most effective method is making your rig more sensitive. Here is how. Step E. Remove any leftover bait from the hook. This ensures accurate float adjustment. Step R. Lower the float by 30-50 cm and cast. Observe if the float sits at the same level as before. Be careful not to cast fully and press the slack out of the line. Step 3. If the float tip is consistent with before, your previous setup was correct. If it is not, trim the lead and reset the float height. Tip: you don't need the float to stick out too much. 2 or 3 units is enough, with the float tip matching the fishing depth. Solution R. Handle water currents. Sometimes, currents bend the supply, which can make float adjustment ineffective. In these cases, strong currents skip the float entirely and use a steel rod method. Let the bait sit on the bottom and wait for bites. Mild currents use a running lead method with a short supply around 7-8 cm or even shorter. A short supply keeps the rig sensitive and ensures even light bites are detected. Additional tips for light bites. Besides adjusting your float or using the running lead method, these tricks help improve sensitivity. Use live bait, worms or red worms encourage bolder bites, making even small fish movements noticeable. Smaller hooks and thinner line, thick lines and large hooks can block light bites. Use thin, soft line and small hooks, especially in cold water. Fine float tips and minimal lead. A thin float tail and just enough lead help detect subtle bites while still allowing for accurate casting. Choose high-protein bait. If you prefer not to use live bait, select commercial bait with high animal protein. Avoid artificial flavorings. A small amount of honey or MSG is enough to improve attractiveness.